The call that cracked my spine came on a nothing special Tuesday, right as I wrapped a client meeting at Morris & Associates. I'm Sloan Archer, a corporate lawyer who's spent 10 years varnishing a reputation so clean you could eat off it, only to find out my own family had been quietly taking a sledgehammer to it. Ms. Archer. A man's voice thin with nerves. This is Daniel Rojas from First National. There appears to be an irregularity with your sister's mortgage payments. My pen slipped and clinked against the desk. My sister's mortgage? You must have the wrong Archer. No, ma'am. That's precisely why I'm calling. You're listed as a co-signer on Ruby Archer's mortgage for the property at 1542 Maple Avenue. Air left my lungs like a door slamming. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Our records indicate otherwise. The paperwork was processed 6 months ago. Your parents brought in all the documentation. My parents. The office began to tilt. Christmas twitchiness, the subject change whenever I mentioned Ruby's new place. The routine paperwork Mom shoved under my nose during her birthday dinner like it was a dessert menu. Email me every document tied to my name, I said, mouth steady, hands not. Of course, Daniel said, and then hesitation. There's more. The payments are 3 months behind. How much? Just over 12,000. The number punched me square in the ribs. I thanked him on autopilot, hung up and stabbed at a contact I could dial in my sleep. Hey stranger, Theo Mercer said, warm and easy. My law school best friend, sometimes the only person who could talk me down from the ledge, and today I needed both friend and litigator. My family forged my signature. The words tumbled jagged. They put me on Ruby's mortgage without telling me. Silence. Then Theo's voice flipped to courtroom steel. Don't move. I'm coming to your office. 20 minutes later, Theo stood hunched over my monitor while I paced grooves into the carpet. He zoomed in on the signature line and actually laughed. A short, disbelieving exhale. Look at this. They didn't even try. Your mother's cursive curl on the S. She might as well have signed it, Love, Mom. My stomach rolled. On cue, my phone lit with a smiling photo of Lillian Archer. I flashed the screen at Theo. Answer. Stay calm, he mouthed. I swallowed a mouthful of fire and hit accept. Hi, Mom. Sweetheart. Dinner tonight? Your father's making his famous lasagna. Perfect timing. I cut in. I just had the most fascinating chat with Daniel Rojas at First National. Silence. A hairline crack in her cheerful tone. Oh, honey. We were going to tell you. Tell me what? That you forged my name? That I'm legally on the hook for Ruby's house without my consent. It's not like that, she snapped, sugar evaporating. Your sister needed help and you're doing so well. The bank wouldn't approve her loan otherwise. So you committed fraud. My voice wobbled, then found the rail. Do you have any idea what this does to my career? Don't be dramatic, Sloan. We're family. Families help each other. Help each other. Or help Ruby. The bitterness tasted metallic. I'm coming over tonight. Have Ruby there. We're going to fix this. Honey. I hung up. My hands were shaking hard enough to rattle the stapler. Theo was already sprinting ahead, fingers a blur. We'll get you protected now, he said. And Sloan, this mortgage is the appetizer. The entree is uglier. What do you mean? He turned the screen toward me. Language in here references other obligations. Somebody's been busy shopping with your identity. By midnight, Theo's office looked like a crime scene. Documents fanned across every flat surface. Yellow stickies webbed the whiteboard like neon spider silk. We skipped lasagna. My phone lit and vibrated with Mom-Dad Ruby group texts. Ignored. This was Tria. Heads up. Came a voice from the doorway. Nyla Park from our financial crimes unit breezed in with 3 coffees like a benevolent hurricane. Mercer filled me in. Sloan, this is twisted. I gulped gratitude and caffeine. Can you trace anything else tied to my SSN? Already on it. Nyla dropped into a chair, screen glow painting her face. Brace. A few keystrokes. 3 credit cards, 2 personal loans, and something hinky with your investment accounts. Theo leaned in. Define hinky. They've been pledged as collateral. Paperwork looks tidy but timestamps don't. Someone backdated the filings. She clicked again, lips thinning. And a platinum card opened 3 months ago. Addressed to your parents' house. I yanked the statement, eyes racing over charges. Designer bags. Spa weekends. Restaurants that hand you the bill like a dare. Ruby's spending pattern, I said, numb. They applied online, Theo muttered, typing. Bet they used your social. Sloan, when's the last time you checked your credit score? 6 months ago. 800 plus. Nyla's jaw set. It's 6:42. The room pitched. Years of spotless filings, careful planning, discipline, dragged through broken glass because my family decided I was a walking ATM with a law degree. Theo slid a legal pat toward me, voice low. Listen. Tonight we freeze your credit and blast fraud alerts. Tomorrow we dispute every unauthorized account. Mortgage's trickier, but we'll deal with it. First, we slam every door they've been slithering through. I stared at the mess, my life distilled into ink and lies, and felt something sharp crystallize inside me. Not rage. Not grief. Something colder. Clarity. One question, I said. Can we prove the forgeries beyond doubt? Theo's mouth quirked. Sloan, half these signings happened while you were physically in court. We've got docket timestamps, security cams, the works. Add handwriting analysis and it's a slam dunk. Good. I stood, energy snapping through me like a live wire. Because tomorrow I'm not just freezing my life. I'm making sure they never do this to anyone else. Nyla arched a brow. Who are you calling? Daniel Rojas. If his bank got papered with forged documents, he deserves the truth. And once he files, fraud investigations have a way of turning over rocks. Theo gathered stacks with a surgeon's precision. You sure? Once this starts, no breaks. I looked at my phone, the pleading bubbles, the weaponized guilt, the presumption I'd fold like always. I'm sure. I exhaled a laugh with no humor in it. They wanted to use the strong one. Fine. Let's show them what strong really means. The smell of Dad's lasagna hit me the second I walked in without knocking. Comfort weaponized. The dining room was set like a magazine spread. Lillian and Victor Archer at the head. Ruby with big eyes and a smaller conscience. If guilt had a stage, this was opening night. We saved you a plate, Mom said brightly, as if we weren't standing on a fault line. I dropped a manila envelope onto the table. Documents slithered within, loud as a scream. Let's skip the theater. Here's everything I found. Want to explain or should I narrate? Dad reached for the envelope. I pulled it back. No more handling my paperwork, Victor. Watch your tone, he cracked. We're your parents. Parents don't steal their child's identity. Ruby burst into tears like a faucet. It wasn't supposed to go this far. The house was a good investment. I just needed help with the down payment. The house. I laughed sharp and ugly. We are continents past the house, Ruby. 3 credit cards. 2 personal loans. My investment accounts as collateral. Your fingerprints are everywhere. Mom blanched. How did you? I'm a lawyer, I said sweetly. Did you forget that while tracing my signature? Or did you simply count on me being too loyal to fight back? We did it because we love you both. Dad raised his voice, righteous fury warming up. Your sister needed help and you have the means. To help her, I finished. Funny how you never asked if I wanted to. I'll pay it back, Ruby hiccuped. I swear. I just need time. Time. I slid a statement toward her. 12 grand at Nordstrom last month. Another 8 at a Vegas spa. Tell me again your debt repayment strategy. Silence. A heavy wet thing. I turned to my parents. And using Dad's golf buddy pipeline to sniff around my partnership prospects? Inspired. A new low but inspired. Mom shot to her feet. Tears glittering and useless. You don't understand what it's like watching one daughter soar, while the other struggles. We had to balance things. My voice cracked and then steadied. Balance by detonating my credit? By gambling with my bar card. Don't be dramatic, Dad started. Here's dramatic, I said, and laid out my plan like scalpel steel. Tomorrow morning I meet with Daniel Rojas. I file fraud reports on every account opened in my name. Then I go to the police. Ruby's crying turned panicked. You wouldn't. Try me. Mom grabbed for my hand. I stepped back like from a flame. We can fix this as a family. Your sister's mortgage is not my emergency room, I said. You're 3 months behind and I'm not your silent guarantor. What's your cure exactly? We. Ruby's gaze slid to our parents. Mom and Dad said they'd. With what? I snapped. The Max cards in my name? The behind schedule loans in my name? The collateral ripped from my accounts? Where is this magical money coming from, Lillian? Silence again. That terrible, honest kind. I pulled one final sheet and set it down like a verdict. This is my sworn statement denying knowledge of any of these accounts. Tomorrow it hits every bureau and bank with my name on file. You'll ruin us, Dad said softly, the first true thing he'd said all night. No, I said, gathering the papers that used to be my piece. You ruined yourselves. You just tried to drag me under with you. Ruby squeezed her eyes shut. I can't lose my house, Sloan. I don't know how to fix this. For half a heartbeat. Seeing the girl I used to pull out of trees and scrape knees for, I wavered. Then I saw the signatures. The timing. The calculation. The choice. You should be scared, I said and didn't raise my voice. Actions have consequences. Welcome to yours. Mom sobbed the old theatrical sobs designed to fold me like origami. We're family. How can you do this to your family? Family doesn't steal, I said. Family doesn't forge. Family doesn't gut one child to float another's lifestyle. Sloan, please. Ruby's hand hovered and fell. Don't report it. We can make a plan. You have 24 hours, I said at last. Either you walk into the bank and confess or I do it for you. Either way, this ends tomorrow. I left to the sound of my name hanging in the hallway like a siren. In the car my phone buzzed. Theo, how'd it go? Me, they're still playing me. Tomorrow they learn what happens when the strong one stops being convenient. I looked back through the dining room window. 3 silhouettes huddled, already scheming, already scripting Act 2. Only this time I was 10 moves ahead. Nyla's bullpen looked like mission control by dawn. Monitors blazing, printers exhaling. A whiteboard webbed up with arrows and dates that made my stomach flip. She swiveled her screen toward me. Your sister's spending isn't chaos, it's choreography. I leaned in. Show me the sheet music. Every big purchase lands on the same nights your parents are peacocking at the country club. Galas, board dinners, charity auctions. She toggled windows. Not about need. About performance. Theo skimmed a ledger, whistling low. And they used your credit to fund the applause. My phone buzzed. Dad. We're meeting with Daniel Rojas this afternoon. Please reconsider your position. They want to get ahead of the blast wave, I said, showing them the text. They don't know we brought a seismograph. Nyla's fingers arrested over the keyboard. Sloan, there's more. She handed me a thin stack like it might bite. Ruby's been applying for jobs with your credentials. Bar number and all. She swapped names but kept your resume. For a second, sound tunneled. That's not just fraud, I said. That's a career-ending felony if it sticks to me. Theo's phone pinged. He went abruptly still. Headhunter buddy confirms. 3 interviews, 1 near offer. She was building a salary history she could leverage. Before I could decide whether to scream or laugh, Daniel's name lit my screen. Your parents are here. They're telling a very different story. Please come to the bank immediately. Of course they are, Theo said, snapping his briefcase shut. He held my gaze. We bring the whole arsenal. Wait, Nyla said, printing one last set. Proof they accessed your investment accounts without authorization. IP traces straight to their home desktop. The drive to First National was a tunnel of glass and adrenaline. Through Daniel's office window I saw my parents perched on the edge of their chairs. Ruby at full tremble. Mom dabbing at eyes that could turn tears on like faucets. We stepped inside and silence fell so hard it thudded. Dad straightened. This is a family matter. No, I said, setting the evidence down between us like a drawn line. This is criminal. Daniel looked wrecked. Your parents say you gave verbal permission. They're lying. I fanned documents across his desk. Forged signatures with court docket alibis. Unauthorized login logs. And I slid the fake resumes on top. Employment fraud with my license number. Mom burst into fresh sobs. We were desperate. Ruby needed. I don't care what Ruby needed. My voice cut clean. You don't get to burn down my life to keep up with your neighbors. Daniel's eyes crawled line by line down the evidence, his face going from confused to grave to banker, who just spotted a regulatory hurricane. This is a very serious. I'll have to report this to fraud and freeze every associated account immediately. That won't be necessary, Mom started brittle. Yes, I said. It will. Here's the fork in the road, Theo added, smooth as a verdict. You confess and cooperate, or we take this to the district attorney and let the state draw the map. Dad's mouth worked, rage searching for a foothold. You'd send your own sister to prison? You forged your daughter's name and sold my reputation by the pound, I said. Ask a better question. Daniel stood. I need to make calls. When he left, the room held only the rasp of paper and the crackle of our former life evaporating. My parents looked small for the first time, anger collapsing into something raw. It didn't move me. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. Nyla. Found something else. Get back here. Now. We hit the office at a run. Nyla was pacing, all kinetic focus. She thrust a packet into my hands. Your parents' shadow account? Not a puddle. A drain. They've been running a boutique Ponzi through the club. Theo's brows jumped. Define boutique. Nearly 2 million, she said. They showed investors your portfolio as proof of concept. Told them you were advising the fund. The floor shifted under me. They used my success as bait. Bingo. Nyla tapped a spreadsheet. Money shuffled to pay earlier returns, and to keep Ruby in couture. Daniel called again. I put him on speaker. Bad news, he said. Right after you left, your parents tried to pull cash across multiple branches. We froze in time. Worse news, they're calling you an extortionist and threatening a bar complaint. I laughed, and it sounded like something breaking free. Let them. Also, Daniel, they've been running an investment scam. We have the bones of it. A commotion flared in the hallway. My father's voice loud and ugly. Then he was in the doorway with Mom and Ruby, shouldering past a startled receptionist like we were a prize he'd come to reclaim. Nyla reached for her phone. Security. No, I said, standing. Let them perform. Dad planted his hands on my desk. You think you can humiliate us? We'll drag you down with us. Before or after you explain this to a room full of victims? I held up the Ponzi docs. The color drained from his face so fast it felt like a trick of light. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Where did you get that? Where do you think? I said. You didn't just rob me. You robbed anyone who ever trusted you. Ruby edged forward, voice high and thin. It wasn't stealing. Dad was helping people invest in. In what, Ruby? I snapped. There is no fund. There's only your appetite. We can fix this, Mom pleaded. If you just give us time. Time to find more marks? Forge more signatures? Install another keylogger on my machine. I let the last word hang. Ruby flinched. Yes, I know about that too. Ungrateful. Dad lunged a fraction, and Theo stepped between us, courtroom calm turned bodyguard. Choose your next action carefully, he said. The bank already called the police. Standard protocol after attempted withdrawals under a fraud freeze. Right on cue, 2 officers filled the doorway. Is there a problem? Dad deflated by inches. Mom's tears finally looked real. Ruby's expression curdled from fear to hate. You really want to do this? She hissed at me. Fine. I'm not going down alone. I'll tell them everything. How you knew about the investments. How you helped. Except I didn't, I said, almost gentle. And you know who else knows that? Network logs. IP traces. Security cameras. Keep talking. The officers separated us, standard choreography. Statements. Names. Paperwork. I watched the performance dissolve. Their practiced moral outrage collapsing into clumsy blame-shifting and half-truths that contradicted the prints in their own ink. My phone vibrated again, a new number. Your parents owe me $200,000. They said you guaranteed the investment. We need to talk. Another followed. They promise returns through your hedge fund contacts. A third. They used my retirement. Please tell me I'm not ruined. Theo touched my elbow. You okay? No, I let the honesty sit. But I will be. I turned to the officers. I want to press charges. All of them. I have digital access logs, forged instruments, and a running list of victims ready to give statements. Mom's sob caught like a snag thread. We're your family. How can you? You are criminals who share my DNA, I said. Family is something else. The officers exchanged looks and began making calls that would start an avalanche. Dad sagged into the chair like an unstrung marionette. Mom's mascara traced roadmaps down her cheeks. Ruby stared at me with a hatred so pure it almost glowed. You've ruined everything, she spit. No, I said. I stopped you from ruining everyone else. Nyla's monitor chimed. More victims are coming forward, she murmured. This is about to get very, very big. Good, I said, surprising myself with how steady it sounded. Then we won't have to look for them. We'll be ready when they arrive. The officer stepped back in. Ms. Archer, we'll need you to compile the evidence for the Financial Crimes Unit. We'll also be coordinating with the bank's fraud department. Done, I said. We've been compiling all night. As they guided my parents and Ruby out for formal interviews, my phone buzzed once more. Unknown, they said you'd make me whole. Please. It's my wife's medical fund. I looked at Theo. Looked at Nyla. Looked at the evidence wall getting heavier by the minute. Okay, I said, breath catching like a promise. Let's turn on every light. Outside my glass office, the building hummed, indifferent. Inside, a new map was taking shape. One that didn't end with protecting appearances, but with telling the whole ugly truth. The day wasn't over. The worst wasn't done. But for the first time since Tuesday, the ground under me felt like something I could stand on. The next week unspooled like a true crime doc that wouldn't end. Theo and I colonized the firm's biggest conference room. Photos and transaction maps sprawled across cork boards until the walls looked like a conspiracy theory that finally had proof. 14 victims became 19, then 23. Elderly club members, widows, a couple who'd sold a lake cabin to get in early. Every new name landed like a stone in my gut. Daniel Rojas arrived looking 10 years older and set a small USB on the table like it might explode. Hidden accounts, he said. Offshore. We trace flows through shell entities. Close to 3 million. Theo gave a low whistle. Not amateur hour. There's more, Daniel added, bleak. Some transfers originated from your office machine. Late nights. That's impossible, I started and stopped. Memory flared. Ruby swinging by to keep me company. Staying late, insisting I go home while she tidied up my desk. The sudden glitchy lag on my laptop the week after. Nyla didn't look surprised. We pulled your security logs, she said. Her visits line up. An IT found a keylogger. Installed from a thumb drive. My phone lit with a jail caller ID. I let it die on the glass. The Bureau wants to talk, Daniel said gently. Crossed state lines. Federal now. Good. I slid a folder across the table. They'll want the travel diary. Inside, screenshots of my parents' social posts. Mom on a yacht off Mykonos. Dad teeing off in Dubai. Ruby unboxing designer bags in Paris. Each caption with the exact dates victims' accounts hemorrhaged. They robbed people, then posted the receipts. An elderly woman stepped into the doorway like a ghost escaping a frame. Margaret, the club's soft-spoken queen of Christmas raffles. I'm sorry to barge in, she said, clutching an old photo from my high school graduation. My parents beamed in the foreground. Ruby glowered in a blur behind them. That day, your mother told me you'd be fine without help, but Ruby would always need extra. She said she'd have to work twice as hard, for Ruby's sake. Margaret's voice shook. I think they planned this a long time ago, dear. Not the crimes, she grimaced. But the use of you. Daniel exhaled. Mrs. Anderson called me, he said. Your parents took her husband's life insurance payout. She's on the brink of losing her house. She won't, I said, the words arriving before the fear. We're going to claw back every dime. Theo already had his phone to his ear. I'm looping in a friend at FBI Financial Crimes. We'll expedite subpoenas. Nyla's monitor chimed. Transfers to Singapore, she said. Right after the bank confrontation. They were planning to bolt. My mother's text popped up a heartbeat later. We could face 20 years. Help us one last time. For family. I typed back, I am helping family, there's the victims. Federal court felt colder than any boardroom. When the day called my name. The prosecution calls Sloan Archer. I walked past my family without letting my eyes snag on theirs. Mom mouthed please once. I looked at the judge. Ms. Archer, the DA said, tell the court how this began. It started with a phone call about my sister's mortgage, I said steady. Then I opened the vein. Forged signatures timed against court dockets. Credit lines bloomed in my name. Investment accounts pledged as collateral. The boutique Ponzi skimming club members with my portfolio as bait. The offshore shells, the keylogger, the attempt to drain cash after the freeze. I watched the jurors' faces change, the air thicken. And the total? The DA asked softly. Over $5 million stolen, I said. 28 confirmed victims so far, most of them elderly. They trusted our name. My parents used my reputation to make the lie look true. Ruby's lawyer objected when the DA held up exhibit photos of Paris shopping bags and Grecian sunsets. Prejudicial. Overruled, the judge said. Dad's attorney tried the angle I'd rehearsed punching through. Isn't it true you benefited from your family's success? No, I said. I built mine. They stole theirs. They didn't raise a prodigy. They cultivated a cover story. Ruby shot up, voice slicing the hush. This isn't fair. You had everything, career, life. What about me? The gavel cracked like thunder. Order. What about Mrs. Anderson? I asked, too tired to soften it. She can't afford her house because you needed a Paris haul. Dad lurched to his feet. We did it for you, to ensure you'd always take care of your sister. Enough, the judge barked. No, I said, because it mattered. You did it because theft is easier than work and you thought love would keep my mouth shut. The DA asked to enter new evidence, fresh subpoenas, account maps to Switzerland discovered that morning. The bailiff ferried the stack to the bench. As I stepped down, Mom sagged into her chair. Mascara wore lines mapping the fall. Dad stared forward like the future owed him bail. Ruby's glare could have cut glass. Outside the courtroom, Theo waited with Nyla and Daniel. How bad? Theo asked. Bad enough, I said. Good enough. The bank started restitution, Daniel told us. And the bureau found 2 more offshore accounts at dawn. My phone buzzed. Mom again, we can still fix this. Please. Family. I deleted it. Sentencing set for next week, Theo said. Then maybe I sleep, I said, and for the first time in days almost meant it. Sentencing day was standing room only, a pew-to-pew reckoning. Victims filled the benches, hands linked like a chain. Mrs. Anderson squeezed my fingers so tight it hurt. Before I pronounced sentence, the judge said, statements. Mom rose first, shaking. We made terrible mistakes, but we did it out of love. I stood without asking permission. Your Honor, love doesn't forge signatures. Love doesn't siphon retirements, install keyloggers, or pose on yachts bought with someone else's chemo money. What they did wasn't love. It was greed with nice table manners. Dad exploded. How dare why? Mr. Archer, sit down, the judge snapped. Then his voice turned to stone. Given the scope, sophistication, and harm, I sentence Victor Archer to 18 years in federal prison. Lillian Archer to 15. Ruby Archer to 12. A collective exhale rippled the room. All assets are to be seized and liquidated for restitution. Offshore accounts frozen and repatriated. Mrs. Anderson's breath hitched into a sob of relief. I get to keep my house, she whispered. Thank you. As marshals closed in, Ruby twisted back to me. I'll never forgive you. I know, I said. The people you bled dry won't forgive you either. On the courthouse steps, Theo handed me an envelope. The firm's creating a victim restitution and recovery program, he said. They want you to lead it. I opened the letter. Official letterhead. An offer shaped like purpose. Nyla bumped her shoulder into mine. Who better to guide people through the wreckage? Daniel texted. First repayments going out today. You did good, Sloan. Margaret approached with a cluster of survivors. We're having dinner to celebrate justice and beginnings. Come. I'd be honored, I said, and meant every syllable. One more thing, Theo added, a mischievous tilt to his mouth. Remember the advice forum you posted on when you couldn't sleep? Your story went viral. People call you the fraud fighter. There's a support group forming for victims of family financial abuse. They want you to speak. The transport vans rolled past. I watched my former life through tinted glass. My mother not looking back. My father staring at nothing. My sister a knot of rage in a cheap suit. I felt light. Not happy, but unburdened by their script. I turned to the gathered faces. No longer just victims, but survivors sharpening into a community. If you need help rebuilding credit, dealing with banks, or just someone who knows how it feels, my door's open. I passed cards into hands that had lost too much and were still steady. That night, at a long table crowded with soup and stories, Margaret raised a glass. To truth and the courage to fight for it. And to family, I added, looking around. The kind you choose. Later in my office, I picked up the last Archer family photo, the one taken before the rot surfaced. Perfect smiles. Perfect lies. I set it face down. On my desk waited a stack of files labeled restitution. Active. Each folder was a life that could be mended. Theo knocked. First support group meeting is tomorrow. Still ready. I thought of every red flag I'd missed because love asked me to. Of every person who'd texted please tell me I'm not ruined. Of the word strong. How they'd used it to keep me quiet, and how I'd reclaimed it. I'm ready, I said. Because this isn't just about justice anymore. It's about prevention. Teaching people to spot the con when it wears your last name. He smiled. That's my strong one. That's my choice. I corrected and flipped open the top file. There were more stories to hear. More paper to chase into the dark. More lives to help stitch back together. The ending wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. A clean ledger, a locked door, a community built out of wreckage. Sometimes the happiest ending isn't saving your family. It's saving everyone else they would have broken.